be classed as hikmah, as would Islamic mysticism, irfan, or Sufism.
As you see here, some scholars, some philosophers, they say sometimes they use philosophy, sometimes they use hikmah. Al-hikmatul Islamiyya or al-falsafatul Islamiyya, Islamic philosophy or Islamic wisdom. Yes, in many cases are the same. But when we go deeply into the meaning of wisdom and hikmah in Islam, especially in Islam, hikmah has a broader meaning, has a wider meaning. Because in many cases, hikmah includes kalam. Hikmah includes irfan, mysticism. So hikmah is something more than philosophy. Even later on, inshallah, we'll discuss about al-hikmatul muta'aliyah, or the transcendental philosophy, which is the philosophy of Mullah Sadra. So when we come to the philosophy of Mullah Sadra, it is more than philosophy. In the philosophy of Mullah Sadra, we have kalam, theology, we have Sufism, we have mysticism, irfan, and even morality, akhlaq. So when we have all these things, we call this hikmah. So it is more than philosophy. One part of hikmah is philosophy, but there are some other parts for hikmah. So in many cases, hikmah and philosophy is the same. But in a specific meaning, or we can say in a deep meaning for hikmah, it is more than philosophy. It includes philosophy. Okay, now we go to the branches of philosophy. There are some branches of philosophy, and you can start the branches of philosophy.
Various topics have been studied by philosophy at various times. Ethics, metaphysics, epistemology, and logic are usually included. Other topics include politics, aesthetics, and religion. In addition, most academic subjects have a philosophy. For example, the philosophy of science, the philosophy of mathematics, and the philosophy of history. The major branches of philosophy in general are the following. Metaphysics was first studied systematically by Aristotle. He did not use that term. The term emerged because in later editions of Aristotle's work, the book on what is now called metaphysics came after Aristotle's study of physics. He calls the subject first philosophy, or sometimes just wisdom, and says it is the subject that deals further in the principles of things. The modern meaning of the term is any inquiry dealing with the ultimate nature of what exists. What's out there is a common way of summarizing the nature of metaphysical questions. Epistemology is concerned with the nature and scope of knowledge and whether knowledge is possible. How do you know is the canonical epistemic question. Ethics, or moral philosophy, is concerned with the question of how agents ought to act. Plato's early dialogues constitute a search for definitions of virtue. Ethics can also be conducted within a religious context. If the other two branches so far ask what is out there and how do you know, then ethics asks what should we do about it. Logic has two broad divisions, mathematical logic, formerly symbolic logic, and philosophy of logic.
Falsafatul mantiq. As you see here, there are 4 branches for philosophy. Of course, this is not the only division or categorization of philosophy. You may find in some other sources some other kinds of categorization and branches. But in general, philosophy is either metaphysics or epistemology or logic or ethics. Because in philosophy, the major concern is about existence, wujud, talking about the reality, the wujud, existence, what exists. And talking about existence and cause and effect, al-illa wal-ma'lul, talking about all these issues goes in under the title of metaphysics. Okay, metaphysics comes from 2 words, meta and physics. The meaning of physics is clear. Physics, the science which talks about materials, about physics, about what is outside. But metaphysics, which is beyond or after physics. So this is a very historical debate among scholars, why they call this part of philosophy metaphysics. Somebody says, okay, this part of, for example, knowledge was called metaphysics by Aristotle himself, because he divided and he categorized the science in two parts. One part he talks about physics, and another part when he talks about something beyond physics, which is above physics, فوق physics in Arabic. So he called metaphysics. This is one idea. But another idea, which is I mentioned here, they say no, this division and this categorization was not called and was not decided by Aristotle himself. But in the time of Aristotle, in one part or in one category, in one section of knowledge, he talks about physics. And when he finishes that part and that section, he goes to the second section and talks about whatever belongs to the world, the existence, wujud, and all these things. After Aristotle, they call the first part physics and they call the second part metaphysics, which comes after physics. And later on, it becomes a title for this part of science. And they call metaphysics whatever comes after physics. So, whatever we call this science and this part of philosophy talks about cause, illat, talks about whatever is beyond this world, which we call God or superpower or whatever, talks about existence, wujud, talks about jawhar, araz, and other things. So one part of philosophy is metaphysics. Second part is epistemology, or ma'rifatul ilm, or علم شناسی، شناخت شناسی. In Farsi we say شناخت شناسی. In Arabic we say معرفة العلم. In English we say epistemology. So one of the most important, I say most, one of the most important part of philosophy is epistemology. And even today, this last 1 or 2 centuries, we have some philosophy, some school of philosophy that the only topic that they discuss and talk is epistemology. And they believe that epistemology is the main topic and the only topic for philosophy. And philosophy is only about ma'rifat shanasi, only about ilm shanasi, ma'rifatul ilm. So epistemology is another part of philosophy. The third part is ethics. Ethics is a part of philosophy, but the difference between epistemology and metaphysics on one side and ethics on another side is that they divided philosophy in 2 parts or in 2 categorization. They say one part of philosophy is theoretical, one part of philosophy is practical. الفلسفة النظرية الفلسفة العملية. So the theoretical philosophy is metaphysics and epistemology. Practical philosophy is ethics, which talks about our deeds, how should to do, what is necessary to do, what is necessary, what is good, what is bad. All these things which goes back to our action, our practice, so we call this ethics.